Good morning to another episode of Monday with Marie. It's Monday after Thanksgiving, and if you're in the Midwest or the East Coast, it's pretty cold. If you are in another part of the country, hopefully it's a little bit warmer and the weather is great. So we've got a few questions, and they are related to games, which is pretty exciting. So our first question is what is the weirdest game you've ever used in a workshop and how did it turn out? The weirdest game I've ever used in a workshop was actually using a deck of cards and using the deck of cards to have people pick a number so that they could get called on and answer the questions. It worked really well. It was entertaining. It was fun. It was a virtual workshop, and the purpose of it was to make sure that people keep their cameras on. And that worked out really, really well. Okay, so and that question was from Robert. So thanks for the question, Robert. All right, so the next question we have here, I'm looking at the list of questions. What advice would you give to someone who's skeptical about the benefits of gamification in the workplace? Listen, and this question comes from Kelly. Kelly, there's a lot of people who are very skeptical about gamification and game-based learning, I should say, in the workplace. And one of the things that you have to begin with is you have to really begin to explain the neuroscience of play. I always start with that because I think it's really important for people to understand this is how we naturally learn, is through play. And if you've heard me give this example before, I apologize, but it's the best example, and so I use it all the time. So think of when you're teaching a baby how to walk. You don't lecture, you don't give the baby a manual and say, here's a manual, read this, learn how to walk. You play with the baby, you coax them into walking. You make it fun, you make it engaging so that they get up and they walk. And if you think about all the aspects of learning that infants have continuing through their lives, you will recognize that play is really integral to how we learn as humans. And so with that, I start with that story to help people understand the importance of play. And then I continue by saying, when we play, which is true about play, but when we play, we're so engrossed in the rules of the game, how to play the game, that we're not focused on the learning lessons right away. It's later on when we're debriefing our clients that we then begin to discuss the learning lessons, and they have these aha moments. And even sometimes during the play, they have these aha moments. And so I want you to consider that fact is that people are learning through the process, and it's enjoyable. They're having fun. It's memorable. They're creating an experience for themselves, and it's an experience that they will remember. And if someone is really adamant against the idea of using gamification, then don't push it. I really believe that you want people that are already evangelized to the idea of gamification if you're going to use it in a workshop with them. All right, so let's see. Our next question. Oh, let's go this way. Let's see. If you're facilitating a board game, what would be some of the key rules and objectives? All right, well, so then this question comes from Mel. Mel, this is a complicated question because it depends on the board game, right? And so the facilitation is really based on the rules of the game and what are the outcomes you want to have. And so while I can't give you a more specific answer to this question because it's a little bit complicated, it's not just a random board game that you're going to use. You're going to use a specific one, or if you're creating a board game, you're creating a specific one that has specific rules and you're using it for a specific outcome. But what I can tell you is that before any episode of play, you always want to make sure that you do something that we call the prep of it. And the prep really speaks to explaining the why behind the activity they're about to do, explaining a little bit of what we hope that the game, which is the outcome of it, so that people aren't walking in cold to the activity, because you still have people that feel that they're too sophisticated to play. And so with that, and a lot of times I find that the people who claim to be too sophisticated to play are usually people who are new to the workplace, new managers that are trying to make a name for themselves, and they're afraid of failure and they're afraid of looking silly, or people that have really they don't recognize the importance of failure, and so they are fearful of failure. Those are usually the groups that are too sophisticated to play in the workplace. And so with that, you want to make sure any game that you introduce, especially a board game, the rules are clearly stated. And it's sometimes good to have a piece of paper that has the rules there, because you're not always going to be able to be right in front of the group that's playing the board game. So you want them to be able to have something that they can refer back to really be able to refer to the rules of the game. The other thing really quick, when you're thinking about creating a board game, you don't want to make the rules too convoluted. If it's too convoluted and I'm spending too much time trying to understand the rules of the game, I'm not going to get the benefit of the game. I'm going to be so focused on the rules and how to play that I'm really not going to get the outcomes that you want. So whatever you're thinking about a board game, you want to think about it not being too many convoluted rules. You want to keep it simple. And with that, I want to say thank you for joining us on this Monday with Marie. We will be back next Monday. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out. If you have a question that you'd love me to present next Monday, you can always put in the comments, DM me, email, pigeon, snail mail. So thanks again. Have a wonderful week.